Roman mythology declares that the city of Rome was founded by fugitives from the Trojan War. Following a period of wandering around the Mediterranean, some of the defeated Trojans finally settled in the land that we now call Italy. After several generations, there was a dispute about who should rule the land. King Numitor was overthrown by his brother Aemulus, who attempted to eliminate any of Numitor's descendants who could rightfully claim the throne. However, the gods intervened, and a pair of twins, Romulus and Remus, were born to Numitor's daughter. As babies, the twins were put into a basket and tossed in the Tiber River. The boys were kept alive by a she-wolf who suckled them until a shepherd named Faustulus discovered them. Faustulus sheltered them until they had grown and could overthrow the tyrant Aemulus and restore their grandfather Numitor as leader. After restoring Numitor to the throne, Romulus and Remus set out to establish their own city with some of their shepherd followers. They planned to establish the city on the banks of the Tiber, where they had been abandoned as babes. The brothers began to argue over the city's design and name. A fight broke out, and Remus was killed. Romulus declared himself as ruler of this new city, which he named Rome. To populate Rome, Romulus invited people from the nearby regions to settle there. Since there was a shortage of women in the city, Romulus invited the Sabine people from a neighboring region to come to Rome for a great festival. While the attention of the men was diverted in celebration, Romulus's men carried off the Sabine women. This was the famous rape, or carrying off of the Sabine women, which has been a popular subject for painters over the centuries. Naturally, the Sabine men retaliated, but the women intervened and begged for peace. The Sabines and Romans were united, with Romulus and the Sabine king, Titus Tatius, sharing power. When Titus Tatius eventually died, Romulus became the sole ruler of Rome for about 40 years until he disappeared mysteriously in a thunderstorm. The Romans, believing he had been taken up to heaven, worshipped him as a god. Interestingly, Edgar Cayce gave several readings for individuals who were said to have been instrumental in the founding of Rome, including Romulus himself. In 1926, Cayce gave a reading for a 59-year-old doctor who was identified as Romulus. The doctor was Thomas House, a physician who applied the medical prescriptions in Cayce's health readings from 1906 until his death in October 1929, when he was serving as the medical director of the Cayce Hospital in Virginia Beach. One of the reasons for the closeness and great longevity in Dr. House's association with Cayce's psychic readings is that he was the uncle of Cayce's wife, Gertrude. As for Dr. House, a brief paragraph in his life reading stated that this entity lost and gained in soul development as Romulus, gaining in the achievements of building the city, losing in self-aggrandizement, manifesting as oppression to others. In his present life, he could not bear oppression of any manner, even extending to the animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms. As part of his greater soul pattern, this entity had been in leadership positions, including a previous life as a leader in the building of the Tower of Babel in Babylon. In that lifetime, his role was to explain the rationale and purpose for the construction project, rather than actual manual labor. Also of note, amongst the several incarnations given in his reading, the soul entity had incarnated as King Louis XVI in France, where he had failed to assert his will and paid the price. With regard to the city itself, when discussing Rome, the readings often used the expression, the city in the hills. In 1927, a 16-year-old boy was told that he had lived during the building of Rome. As Ignaeus, he gained and lost during that experience, gaining in material achievement, losing spiritually in the latter years when he misused his power to oppress others. In his modern life, he was told to apply himself in learning how to bring health and healing to the physical body. In 1926, a 27-year-old secretary was told that she had lived during the early Roman period as the city expanded in its growth. The surrounding areas were destroyed to allow construction of that now known as the ancient hills. As Romalolu, she was a shepherd of goats who kept close to nature and nature's forces, which she maintained throughout that experience, even though she became a weakling in the physical sense. In 1929, a 43-year-old bookkeeper was told that she had lived during the building of the city in the hills. In the name Ramallah, she was not one of the conquerors, rather she came as a settler from the lowlands. She gained through the experience in building a home and helping those in her community to understand the laws of the land, especially as pertained to property. She was told that in her modern life, she would make a good property attorney. The importance of law, noted in her reading, is significant, as several readings over the years given for diverse individuals mentioned that Rome was built on law, whereas in Greece the emphasis was on art. For example, the application of law and justice in the founding of Rome was accented in the case of a 63-year-old real estate proprietor who was told that he had been a ruler in Rome when the city was being built in the hills. In the name Romuli, he gained in a material sense, but lost spiritually in meting out unjust punishments to those who were conquered in the building up of the land. His reading indicated that he could do well in law enforcement, being a stickler for the law, but must be careful that the punishment for offenders is justified by the offense. In 1926, a 49-year-old woman was told that she had lived during the building of Rome. In the name Claudio Socco, she was an assistant to one of the architects of the city. From that life, she carried over an appreciation of the beauties of architecture, especially the architecture of Greece and Rome.